on the.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Talk to Dr. Whyte show. We have Dr. Norman Whyte here. We also have Mr. Eric Pettus, who's the host of the, I want to make sure I say this, Chief Jimmy Brown show, and also the CEO of GLB Consulting. So we also have Kristopher Doura coming on. He'll be on in a couple of seconds, but I'll have Dr. Whyte take it over and tell you a little bit about the Talk to Dr. Whyte show. And Doc, take it away.
Well, okay. All right. Welcome, everyone, all viewers. Thank you again for tuning in to Dr. Whyte, the Talk to Dr. Whyte show. One of the best shows hitting the screen today. Basically, this show is primarily a very informative show that will give you various perspectives from professionals and laypersons, as you will, if you will. So basically, essentially, that's what Talk to Dr. Whyte show is all about. I'd like to welcome Mr. Doura, Kristopher Doura. Before I get to you, Mr. Doura, I'd like Mr. Eric Pettus, a well-known, renowned radio personality in South Florida and possibly nationally, to introduce himself and really tell us what you do, Mr. Pettus, and take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Again, Eric Pettus. I actually don't consider myself a radio personality. I guess more and more I'm I guess growing into it. But I really am. I own a financial planning and business consulting company, Pettus and Dawkins Financial Group, and also an insurance agency and a financial marketing and financial media company. Couple other things that I do, but I actually inherited a show called the Chief Jimmy Brown Show, which oddly enough started out of the Lozano riots in 1989. The big riots that happened in Miami the last time a police officer was prosecuted for an on-duty shooting in Miami-Dade County in '89. That show started out as Hot Talk. Chief Jimmy Brown, which was a bronze medal winner, police chief for the Miami-Dade Police Department, and also a United Methodist pastor, college professor, author of 20-some books. I began going on his show in 2003 as a regular guest, doing segments on financial awareness and things like that for the community, his listeners. By 2007, he had me co-hosting the show with them. By 2008, he had me hosting when he'd go out of town on vacation. And then slowly began to have me kind of as his every night sidekick on Sunday nights on WMB, on Hot 105. About 5 years ago, he left and went to WMBM 1490 AM, brought me over there with him. He passed away a little over 2.5 years ago, and left me the show and his brand and books and all of that stuff in his will for me to continue on with his legacy, and happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for that profound introductory of yourself, Mr. Pettus. I just want to reemphasize what we're talking about tonight. Tonight we're talking about local politics and voting. Local politics and voting. It's tomorrow is the last day to vote, and so that's the premise of the show. And so I would like to introduce Mr. Kristopher Doura. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Welcome to the Talk to Dr. Whyte show.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Whyte. Pleasure to meet everyone else, Eric. And, looking at ways to really connect with the group this evening, I think it's so important to, we got to get out there. We got to go vote. We got to make sure to, really set the tone. This year is going to make a lot of sense, for all of us to really be able to kind of, share, what we're feeling, share what we're going through. And the best way to do that and to articulate that is to get up, go vote, do whatever you got to do. If it's a ballot, if it's you standing outside, if it's you just, having a voice. If you don't vote, don't say a word. We don't want to hear it. We're not interested in it. If you want to be able to be heard today in the community, it's time to get up and get it done. But, thank you so much, for allowing me to, join the panel. My name is Kristopher Doura. I'm a retired athlete, had some time in the pros, and unfortunately, after transition, I had to make a choice. And, I fell back on business. I love what I do. I'm also a financial planner. I specialize in some key areas, legacy planning with nonprofits, business succession planning with business owners, and helping individuals as well get organized. But I think, the nature of the conversation today is really about, getting everybody to get up, get out of the house. We've been all in the quarantine, and really allowing each other to work together. It doesn't matter what side you're choosing, just get it done. Go out there, vote, be a voice. So thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to the show, and, I'm very privileged. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Can I ask you guys a question? What do you think is one of the main stumbling blocks this year, or challenges, I'll use that word, that we have with voting this year? What do you guys see as one of the main challenges that we have?
Well, I think obviously when you think about the challenge is really understanding, who you're going to vote for. I think obviously educating yourself is dynamic. Don't go out there and vote emotional. Do some due diligence, really review kind of who you would like to see in office at the local level. And even in November, I think it's a critical time for us to really educate ourselves, to really make the best decision, not only for your families, but also our communities. And it's impeccable for us to really, take notice of really what people are saying. Look at your policies, question, what you believe in and what you're for, but make sure that you make a strategic decision based off your values and your principles.
Before we continue, Kandi, please reintroduce yourself so that everyone could know exactly who you are, what you do. Mr. Conda.
So my name is Kandi Conda. I am a Hall of Famer. I have an app, which is the Life After Sports app. Kristopher, make sure you download this app so we can work together, by the way.
Absolutely, Kandi.
I used to own a women's pro basketball team. I'm the first African-American woman to own a women's pro basketball team. I'm in double Hall of Famer. I'm also an author, ghostwriter, and business consultant for athletes. So I help them. I do ghostwriting for their books. I help them with business plans. I help them with whatever they need. And I'm from Chicago, but I've just relocated to Las Vegas. And so I work with a lot of the teams, events, things of that nature here. But I'm also very in tune to, the political arena here. I worked with Elizabeth Warren, and some of the other campaigns. I worked on the Obama campaign. So yeah, I'm kind of in tune to what's going on, nationally and locally with politics as well.
Right, great. No, this question I'm going to ask Mr. Pettus.
Yes.
Mr. Pettus, and again, this is for everyone to chime in on. Do you think that the candidates are really talking about resolving the economic disparities that we're facing in Dade County right now? Mr. Pettus, what is your thought on that?
Definitely, I do not think that they are doing enough conversation about that. One of the things to also piggyback on Kristopher's answer to the question of what's stumbling people from voting, I think that the climate that we're in, where we have the postal service issues, and then we have everybody kind of focused on the presidential race, that's kind of given people once there was no real Democratic primary, so to speak, for president, that kind of, I think, slowed down some of the voting. We have had some other things happen in our local area that you have some kind of head-to-head matchups that have brought out more people of color, particularly African Americans, in certain areas and certain precincts. I know the races up in Miami Gardens for mayor and the state legislators positions. as well as the one down south with, between Keone McGee and his opponent down there. Those things are bringing black folks out. But I don't know if there's enough issues to get us with the same type of energy that we had with a Obama race during his primary. You follow me? So I think that's what's kind of slowing us down a little bit. And then also the other thing I'll say is that I don't think that the Democratic Party is being seen as doing a good enough job to appeal to African American people. We have the Democratic, groups that are African American or what have you, but the overall Democratic Party, I don't think is really doing as good a job as it needs to be viable going forward. And that's just my opinion.
And you want to, Kandi? What do you? Well, I know Kandi's not local here, but so Kristopher, what is your perspective on politics in Miami? Or
I'm from Dade County. I definitely want to represent Miami, Florida, and I think it's going to be important. The elephant's on the table. A lot of stuff is happening in the past 3 months, and we can't take silence. I don't think it's the time for us to approach this with not understanding the facts. A lot of news stations, they like to broadcast certain things, but again, you got to really find the facts for yourself. You got to really research, the statistics and understand really what policy is about. There are local leaders who approach this strategically, but make sure that that's in the best interest of, minority. Because when we look at stats, we look at numbers. We've been doing this for decades. We've been doing this for quite some time. I don't think, this approach should be any different opposed to the last 100 years. I think we should approach this now with just an emphasis of making sure to, get our votes out there so we can be heard. The saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I think obviously that's the same approach with, the voting. If you don't vote, then we really don't have a system that we can really rely on. Making sure that we can really approach this in every county, in the entire state and the entire country. I think it's really an emphasis for us to wake up and for us to not be sleeping, and we need to be heard. So whichever, a party you're for, whichever approach you'd like to take it, I think it's just, imperative that we get up and speak. And the way that we're going to be able to get up and speak is by voting.
I'd like to say something. I know Mr. Pettus has a local show that's well known, well established, the Chief, Jimmy Brown show. And so, he was talking about the Democratic Party not necessarily doing a good enough job in catering to or appealing to the African American community. Besides the, African American groups, and so what I have an issue with. Another issue I have with the party is that they tend not to invest in black media. You have black radio, you have black television, you have black social media, you have black political consultants. And so I think maybe they are investing in you, Eric. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Mr. Pettus. If they are doing anything, if they're giving you or investing in your platform, or no, that's not happening.
No, that's not happening. Now I can't speak to the show itself. I mean the station itself, but I have looked at a few candidates, expense reports cycle, which I may have done once in my life, but because of the things that are going on right now, I've been looking at some of that and kind of seeing, why are certain people advocating for particular candidates, and when if you go and look deep enough into the expense report, and you kind of see where the push is coming from. So, with that being said, I think that they look at our media as we'll pay for that media if we can get them to advocate for us. They don't look at black media as a source for, every opponent should buy a commercial because it's reaching an audience. They're only interested in paying for media in that space that's going to help them to silence people. And that's not the way that the media should be utilized. I've been in this cycle. I've had people call the station and say, "Why is he talking about these people, or why is he talking about this candidate negatively?" And actually try to get me kicked off the air. Fortunately for the station, that didn't happen. Let's say fortunately for the station, because at the end of the day, as I mentioned, it's not my career. I got a lot of other things that are going on. If I lose that platform, then I can do what we're doing right now. That's not going to stop me from talking about the people. It just won't go out over your radio station, but it'll still be done. So we came to a meeting of the minds on that, and we continued. But and the sad thing is the people that came to try to do that on behalf of the candidate or people that look like us. And the person that I was talking about is not somebody that looked like us, but someone that I feel has done more harm to the community than good. And that's why I chose to speak out about it.
So I would like to ask you guys a question. So, of course, I'm looking at this from a national perspective, and the media may be skewed a little. But yesterday, or either this morning, I saw that Florida had, I guess, 4,000 cases a day the last several days of COVID cases. So as you guys are actually voting tomorrow, is that something that you guys are concerned about? Is there something that you're doing to help, maybe some of the people get out and vote, or that, or even maybe some of the older people? Is that going to be an issue in November as well? What is that looking like for you guys? I mean, are you concerned, or you think it's under control?
I'm a bit concerned. I think it's obviously things that we worry about for our elderly who are not able to get out there and, spend time in the community without a mask. We have to make sure we protect our elderly, protect our children, and protect ourselves first and foremost. But I think it's something that if we can approach this and allow, to gather and collect elderly votes, figure out ways if we can, carpool, if we can, socially distance, make sure that, the people who are at the polls are making sure to take precaution. Whatever we need to do to protect, our community, it needs to be executed at a very high level, and make sure that we have the right safety measures and precautions to be able to do this efficiently. But I think there could be a lot more work that can be done. But again, we have a timeline and we have to get it done, and we have to, make sure that we are all voting and participating. So what's really important is making sure that we can provide assistance in any way we can.
Well, to answer Kandi's question, the COVID-19 issue, is it being dealt with or the best to the ability in Dade County particularly? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not pleased at all, because the way they reacted, the time that they took to react swiftly was not what really happened. I mean, it seems as though the local government was dragging their feet. Everyone is going in 10 million different directions, and things were not in uniform, done in a uniform manner. They were not marching, in the same direction. Everyone, you have, we have 31, 32 municipalities in Dade County. And so it seems as though, all these different various municipalities were going in 10 million different directions. And so as a result of that, a lot of the African American community, the Black community suffered a lot and will suffer a lot more. So, I do definitely agree with the panel here that we have to hold these candidates accountable. I know tomorrow is the major election. I mean, tomorrow is the general election. and then we're going to go into the general. Tomorrow's the primary, then we're going to go into the general. I would like for us, Mr. Pettus and Doura, to really engage these front runners and see what they're going to do for the Black community. I'm dead serious, 1,000% serious about what it is they're going to do, and I expect a good, solid plan, a good, solid answer, because the community will suffer the brunt of this significantly. More businesses are gonna close, more foreclosure will happen as a result of this pandemic. So they really I have to go back to the table and sit with the two major runners and see who, we decided to support.
Let me ask you this: have you thought about the potential fact that, or let me just say it this way: what I believe is that there's a reason why the response has been very limited and to nothing. The reason that I think is that when the state of Florida is given $5.5 billion for COVID relief, and then a little over $470 some million comes into Miami-Dade County for COVID relief, how does that money get to be tapped into if nobody has COVID? So now what happens to that money? It's divvied out to organizations that they want to have that money go to for outreach. But to me, it's just a theft in progress. So there's a lot of money that's tied to this pandemic that people aren't really looking at, because the average person doesn't know that Florida got $5.5 billion. The average person doesn't know that $477 million came to Dade County. The average person doesn't know that the county gave $20 million to the United Way to do outreach in African American communities. You don't know that.
What are they doing with all that money? What are they doing with that money?
Nothing. Spending it on whatever they spend it on, and using organizations to make it look like they've been reaching out and doing different things. You give out a couple dollars here and there to, and underfund programs and things like testing sites, et cetera, and just hold on to the money until we can erase it some other way. That's typically what happens in Miami-Dade County. And that's what I believe is being set up in structure right now.
Well, the thing is, the sad reality is that across the board, Dade County, right now, if in fact, the percentage of home ownership is only 30%. So 70% of the populace are renters. 70%, 70%. So there's something wrong with that picture, and so we have to. So I would like to know from the front runners who are running in the general election after tomorrow. We'll know who the winners are. What plan do they have to rethink of how we're going to put more people in the homes, or aid or help more people becoming homeowners again? It seems as though for the last 20 years, the focus was on the top and not the middle and the bottom. And so as a result of that, evidently the middle began to shrink, and the bottom, it seems as though the middle and the bottom shrunk. So you have more people who are in dire straits economically in Dade County, whether you're Black, white, elderly, from the millennials on down. It seems as though everyone got poor in the last 10 years. So we have to address that issue. But I myself, I'm a candidate. I'm running for committeeman in District 15. That entails North Miami Beach, Aventura, um, and some other cities, Miami Shores, Bay Harbor Islands. And so I'll be on the ballot tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be a winner. Hopefully we'll be celebrating virtually if I take this home. But basically, my position is new on the ballot, and I don't want to get into the how it became that reality. But it's something that happened in a local party that was, because of what it is. I don't want to, necessarily throw the party under the bus, but I am taking advantage of it, and I'm meeting a lot of people, and the community is embracing me and loving me, like, surprisingly. Well, I'm not saying that I'm surprised, but I see some of the little work that I've done in the community. It's paying off.
That's a good point you made, Dr. Whyte, and I believe Eric had some solid points that he also emphasized on. You don't know what you don't know, and that's really the lack of what the front runners need to actually get out there, the message. What I'd like to see from the front runners is to really talk about deployment of capital. What are you going to do with it? Why should we vote for you? Why is it important that we should trust what you're going to do with these resources? Because when you think about strategically, we absolutely need to address our minority communities, but that doesn't mean we need to shy away from some of the major corporations or the institutions that are funding. The Triple P, the EIDL loans, if you had solid relationships, you were able to find a way. However, the lack of education, that lack of not knowing what you don't know, is also another reason why we should not make excuses why people didn't get funding. Because when you think about it, approaching it the right way, if you have experts who can help you, if you are able to get on Google and just research at times, you can find a lot of answers. So when you approach the question you ask, well, what are our front runners going to do? Well, I want to see what you're going to do with your policy. I want to see what you're going to do in our local communities. How are you really going to educate, our schools, our students? How are you going to really, put forth the effort to make sure that you don't want just my vote just so you could run for your term, but really give us a solid plan. What are you going to do, the first week? What are you going to do in the month, in the quarter, the rest of the year? That's really who I want to vote for. That's who I want to stand behind and continue to vote for. Because when you think about it, everybody gets a shot, and you get elected based off of what you're talking about and how you're going to execute at a high level. So I think really educating our community is going to be the key. Ourselves, our panel, if we have abilities to get a farther reach, if we have the ability to really get in front of an audience that's really going to, understand and listen to us, we all speak the same language as our communities. We all could really, talk the talk, walk the walk. But a lot of times it's, our communities who don't even understand how to pick up a phone, how to ask for help, how to help yourself. People don't want to help people that are not helping themselves. Let's be very clear about that. If you are waiting on a handout, you may not even get a call. Nobody wants to help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. And I think that's the first point of what are our front runners going to do? Let's make sure we're educating our communities of how to really approach how to ask for help.
Good point.
I think a lot of these the politicians they're reliant on what they call UVs, the uninformed voters, to stay in power. I just talked with a young Cuban young lady today, and she was explaining why her family members, her older parents and grandparents, think the way that they think about certain issues. And she was explaining how they think Democrats are the next step from socialism or communism, because they grew up communist in Cuba. They feel that anything that involves giving someone something as what we would consider, healthcare, giving people affordable healthcare or universal healthcare to them is a step sliding to communism. And then I said, well, wow, do any of these people who are afraid of communism, we're going to say giving people affordable health care or giving them, universal health care is going to send them to communism. Do they even have health insurance? Can they afford health insurance as it stands right now? And she's like, no, but they don't care. It's like you'd rather not have health care because you think that it should be something that if the government provides it, then that's communist. And that's one of the things, again, so that kind of thought process is what keeps those people in a counterproductive, even to their own interests, position where they're going to make those decisions and vote in that manner. Just in Miami, an uninformed voter, we have more than a lot of places because some folks are simply going to go into the voting booth and they're going to vote the name that sounds most Hispanic. But then there's other folks that are going to go into the booth and said, we know that they're doing it, so we're going to vote the name that doesn't sound Hispanic. And at the end of the day, neither one of those folks may get the right person for what their interests are, what their needs are. And that's one of the things that keeps us in the position that we are. I'll leave some more for some other folks. I got some other reasons too.
The thing is, Eric, talking specifically about the candidates, and do you have, if you want to, or any of you, for that matter, if you want to specify what candidates you prefer, I'm gonna not say anything, particularly to what candidate, but do you have a list of candidates, Mr. Pettus, that you think would be best for our community? And if not, that's okay.
Well, I'm going to say that my opinion right now is that the biggest race that we have is in the almost 25 years that I've been here. The biggest race that we have is the race for state attorney. The race between Melba Pearson and Kathy Fernandez Rundle. That is the biggest race that we have. I am 27 years of Kathy Fernandez Rundle has been, in my opinion, the worst thing that has happened, or the worst part about Dade County is our state attorney's office. Okay, if you come to Florida and you're a black person, you come for Memorial Day weekend, the likelihood that you're going to be price gouged by hotels, that you're going to be arrested, that you're going to be basically given a stay that says don't ever come back under her watch, as the top cop in the county. That happens to people that look like us from a tourist standpoint. Okay, people that live here, if you get arrested, it doesn't matter whether you're innocent or guilty. They're gonna ride you all the way to a plea deal that's gonna criminalize you, no matter if you're innocent or not. Okay, I am very big on that. And again, unlike most people, I've had a chance to sit in Kathy Fernandez Rundle's office about specific cases and to ask, these people are innocent, why don't you drop the charges? And her words to me from her mouth has been, we have an obligation to the victim and to the police. And my retort is, don't you have an obligation to the truth? Because if somebody's innocent, there's, case after case after case of innocent people that have been criminalized, even though they were innocent. And again, I don't want to take up the whole show on that, but that's the biggest race. Next to that, the mayor's race, I think is going to end up being in a runoff. I personally think it's going to end up between Pinellas and probably Cava. Again, I don't know that we'll be better off with one or the other. But I think that when you look at who's in the race, to me, it's going to be down to one of those two.
What about Bovo? I've heard it's going to be Pinellas and Bovo, or Cava and Bovo, Steve Bovo, because Bovo is on the I know it's a nonpartisan,
right?
But he's getting a lot of push from the Republican platform. In fact, and so I've heard, through the political grapevine that it could be, either or with Mr. Bovo. I've heard, from him not engaging in too many platforms when invited to Black community events. I've heard of community leaders speaking to me about Bovo not engaging enough in Black forums. I'm not sure if you invited him to your show and you experienced that also.
No, I did not invite him to my show, but what I will say is that, again, because of the uninformed voters and the fact that people vote based on the sound of the name or nationality, they don't have to come to our. They don't think they have to come to our community to win. If you look at voter turnout, historically, we're around 15%. We've gone up. I think Andrew Gillum race, I've been told, has been 22% voter turnout for Blacks in 2018. So when they start to look at the historical data and start to look at this, I don't know how this particular election cycle is gonna kind of skew the numbers, because one of the things that's happened that I've seen is that you have more people voting absentee because of COVID. So the numbers are going to be skewed. They're going to be studying this election cycle for many years to come, I think, because we're going to probably have, and that's what Trump is betting on, is that we're going to have record turnout for the presidential election, I think, but it's going to be record turnout when it comes to absentee ballots.
Ballots, yeah.
Okay. If you can shut down the mail, you shut down the majority of the votes. The people who are going to the polls are the people that don't think Corona exists.
Chris, what do you think? Chris, what do you think?
Well, I think we should, definitely consider a lot more a diverse group of candidates. First and foremost, I think we should definitely look at ways to promote diversion, equality, and look at, candidates that are for the community, whether they're from Haiti, whether they're from, Cuba, whether they're from the United States, they're African American. I think the people should vote for who you feel is going to really make an impact in your community. Everybody has an approach and, what they believe in, but it's all really a conversation until you actually execute and you deliver. And obviously, when you think about some of the candidates today, we really want to see what they're going to do. But the campaigns that they've put on, what have they been promoting? Some of the things that make sense, going all the way up to Washington, D.C. We really want to see how does that trickle down to our local communities, and how does that really affect, the minority community? If we are fortunate to be able to get out there and vote, it's wonderful. But we have to also rely on, electronic voting. And voting with strategy, and really reading the ballot and making sure that you know exactly who you're voting for, because that's going to be another consideration. As Eric mentioned, people vote based off of their biases, and they vote based off of their upbringing in their household, and that's not the best approach, because that just puts everybody in the same position as the last quarter, last 4 years, or put you in a position to not really make a difference. So I think really, allowing us to really promote diversity is really going to be the key to the next term.
Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to throw something to you, Doc. I heard you say earlier, 70% of the people in Florida or in the area you guys are in are not homeowners, right? So in Asheville, North Carolina, recently they introduced reparations, and their reparations that they introduced was giving home ownership. It wasn't cash, but it was assisting the residents in actually home ownership. It may be something for you guys to study and see if that's something that you can actually implement in your area. Because I know it's a high-priced area. It's like here in Vegas, it's transient. A lot of people are coming and going, but it may be some type of, like I said, reparations policy that you guys can actually look at and implement at some point.
That's a great
home ownership.
That's a great idea. Someone asked before I elaborate on that. Someone asked if anyone else besides me will be, in other words, would be running for office, will be interested in running for office. I don't know if Kristopher, Doura, or Kandi will be running for office.
Today in my career, probably not. But times can change where, maybe in many, many years in the future, that could be a consideration. But as for today, I'm going to stand on the sidelines and watch, but make sure that my voice is definitely something that is heard through my vote.
Well. Also, I know the Haitian American community historically has always voted in droves, in large numbers. So, we do definitely expect to see the Haitian American community coming out in droves to vote, and that should be interesting to see who the community votes for mayor, commissioner, and presidential. But to speak to Kandi's question about or idea about reparations and attaching homeownership to reparations, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that's a great ask. That's a realistic ask, because the disparities in Dade County in the African American community of color, is disproportionately extreme. So that should be something that I'll be willing to sit down with, the two front runners in making that demand. We cannot do the same old thing, the same old way, going into 2020. From tomorrow moving forward, I'm getting my suit, my briefcase, or whatever the case is, and I'm calling all you guys, and we're gonna have the Zoom conference, with Kristopher and Eric and all the other leaders in this community to really make some demands. I encourage making some demands because one thing I do like what Commissioner Levine Cava, she spoke about stopping the black flight. That's an issue. I've had friends of mine, professionals who send their kids off to college and they don't come back because Dade County is not an environment for a young black professional. And that's the reality. They leave and they don't come back. And so how many parents would love to have their kids go off, get educated, and come back to a community, right? Everybody, every parent, every normal parent, that's what they want. So she spoke about stopping the black flight and preserving our heritage. Miami-Dade County has a rich cultural, diverse heritage. You have the Haitian American, you have the Jamaican American, you have the African American, you have the Hispanic diaspora, and so on paper, or when we promote it in a vacation or like manner, it looks good on paper, but in reality, it's just not working. So it would be good to have something that really works for all of us, and not just a few of us in Dade County.
Dr. White, you made a great point in regards to how to approach reparations, and Kandi, I think you also hit the nail on the head with, not only is it home ownership, but it's also a way to encourage, what about, Black Wall Street? Let's bring that back to the table. Which one of these candidates, these front runners, are going to bring that conversation to the community? How are we able to really, discuss about reinvesting in our small businesses? How are we really giving back to one another? And how are we really, formulating relationships with these financial institutions? I think that's really where, if you ask me the question, well, Kristopher, what do you think about the front runners? I want to see who's going to address those topics. I'm in the financial sector, and I understand, Wall Street, and I understand finances. But when you think about that, I've educated myself to become a financial person. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to put a suit and tie on and help people with their financial planning. I made sure that I got an education to be able to talk about the language that I use today. So when you think about that, we really want to see which one of the front runners are going to be able to bring those tough conversations to the table. We don't want to talk about the same song and dance that we've been, still, listening to for the past years. We really want to see who's here to help, who's here to really, bring back, the money into our community so we are able to reinvest in our local businesses. There are many entrepreneurs who are reinventing the wheel. It's not about running in the hamster wheel anymore, waiting to get the gold watch and retire. It's about how are we going to create and reinvent ourselves and be entrepreneurs. There's so much wealth in our communities in diverse inclusion. When you think about those topics, who's talking about the elephant on the table? Black Wall Street. Let's reinvest in our businesses. Let's put money back into the community. Those are the front runners that I'm paying attention to, and I'm listening to what they're saying. Whether they're Haitians, Jamaicans, African Americans, whether they're white, whether they're Spanish, wherever they come from, anywhere. If you are capable to put on a campaign, let's really see what you're going to discuss when you do become elected official.
Right. Well. That being said, Mr. Doura, when you take a look at Overtown, Liberty City, and Liberty City. I do not think that there is one Black-owned business in that community. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Pettus. Correct me if I'm wrong. You do have the restaurant. I think you have the soul food restaurant, and you do have another restaurant where Oprah Winfrey visited, right? Last year or this year.
Little greenhouse.
Right. But it seems as though in the past 5 years or 10 years, the businesses were just failing and closing its doors, by the second, by the minute, by the hour. And so there has to be something done consciously on purpose to help support opening back those doors in those communities around the country, around the county.
Well, I got to give a shout out to my friend and client Derek Turton, who owns the House of Mac, which is in is on the edge of Overtown. Just in Overtown, and not in Wynwood, but it's very close. So there are, again, restaurants, but there are people that I've got clients that are have nonprofits that have real estate companies and that own properties and and that type of thing in those areas. But again, most of the industry that we have is churches, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what we've been doing as a company, in my business life, is trying to work with churches to do development. Don't sell your property, develop it, turn it into an income stream. If the neighborhood's going to gentrify, and your membership is moving all out, the church owns the property. make sure that you collect rent from the people who are gentrifying the community. Don't sell it to them cheap, okay? Which is one of the things that we often end up doing. Church will sell property for a couple $1 million, and then somebody in 6 months later will sell it for multi-millions of dollars. And that's what ends up happening to our people. So I'm always looking for, don't sell it, lease it, do those types of development deals, be partners with the developers, do those types of things, because we have to start to create wealth. And we're missing the opportunity to do that a lot in these areas that, folks are just coming in, they're buying, you're selling grandma on a reverse mortgage, grandma dies, nobody has the money to buy that house back from the mortgage company, and now they get it, and now it turns into something worth a lot more money. I mean, I had a client build a house in Liberty City that sold for upwards of $300,000. And if you saw where it is, you'd say, I can't believe a house is selling for $300,000+ in this area. But that's what's happening in those areas. And 5-6 years from now, it'll probably sell for $500,000. But they gotta get rid of all the other folks around that area before they do that. Well, that's where we know it's coming, because as one of my clients and friends says, that Liberty City is the highest point above sea level in the county. So that's prime real estate now. It's always been prime real estate, but it's what we consider a blighted community. But just look around at the buildings that are being built. They're not building those buildings for us. They're using the HUD money and they're building it as affordable housing. Once that tax credit period is over, trust and believe who's going to be living in those buildings. I've been in some of those buildings over off of 54th Street. You got a better view than anywhere else. You can see from the Biltmore down the south to Fort Lauderdale Beach in the north, from a building on 54th Street and all the ocean. Okay, so, and you can just walk around those buildings. If you ever get inside, and you can tell these places are built for sale. They're going to sell them down the road for lots and lots of money. Not going to be affordable housing.
So the future of the diaspora. How do we see the future of Dade County for the diaspora, for Black folks in Dade County? Does it look good to you guys, or does it, or the future looks dim and not so bright for a lot of us? How do you guys see it? And if you see it not so bright, what can we do after this election tomorrow to begin talking about what should we be doing to make sure that it is bright for us?
I feel it's education. It's really, stepping up to the plate and, providing that value locally, and even your high schools. Because believe it or not, sometimes information is relayed from a child who goes back to their home and it may be more able to have a conversation to talk about, well, why aren't we living in a house yet, parents? Why don't we, look at ways to get out of a situation so we can move forward and advance? So I think really the education is key. There are ways to talk to experts and to be able to have relationships, but I think it really starts with our front runners who are really going to share some of these topics, at our local levels. We need to be educating, our youth of, what does it mean to start a business? What does it mean to create an LLC? What does it mean to, have a partnership? What does that mean to have a business plan? To really start talking about putting ideas on paper so we can have goals. I think that's really where we need to start, especially to emphasize to our parents. Our generations before us may not have approached it that way because they were not taught that way. This is right now where we have the time, the energy, and the capacity to really educate our youth. because our youth are going to be the next ones running for office. They're going to be the next ones who become president. So I think really starts from the very younger stages in life, where I don't want to learn about, math that I'm not going to apply if I'm not going to Nassau. I want to learn about taxes. I want to learn about budgeting. I want to learn about how to approach my student loans. I want to know, how do I get out of debt? How do I apply for a mortgage? Those are some of the things where I think we could really spend more time on, especially with whoever becomes elected tomorrow. That's the topics that we need to address. Those are the topics where we need to get out of the systematic way of learning. We need to challenge old practices that we've been taught growing up. And luckily for us, we were able to make it out. We were able to see through the light at the end of the tunnel to say, well, I'm not satisfied with the status quo. I don't want, that typical 9 to 5 where I'm going to rely on somebody else to hire and fire me. I'm not going to have a family based off of if I'm able to go to work and clock in. If I'm not able to go take my child to work because, I have to pay bills, that should not be a conversation where that is really all we know. And I think that's where the discrepancy is educating our youth that there are ways to challenge the system. There are ways that we can encourage, questions to be asked. We should never be satisfied with just one answer. And I think really that's really where we need to, focus, all our energies and realize, whoever becomes elected, what are they talking about? Let's challenge them from the very beginning. Let's make sure that they can really address those, social injustice issues. Let's not wait for something to happen where there has to be a video reel that goes through social media that hits faster than a news station for us to wake up. I think that's really what we need to really approach how we're going to, make a difference. And it starts with voting.
Voting, right. Well,
4 minutes, guys.
Oh yeah, 4 minutes. Wow, we could go on and on and on. The thing is that in Dade County, the thing is, you talk about the community. The communities are fractured, so you have a lot of influential people. I'm talking about in the community of color. The old guards. You have the old guards, and you have some new faces in politics. And so we have to work together, okay? Because Eric Pettus is not going anywhere. Kristopher Doura is not going anywhere, and Kandi is not going anywhere. We're here to stay, and we want to make this work. So unity. We have to put our heads together for the sake of the community at large. Okay, we got to put our egos aside. We have big egos like you can't imagine. And so, what I'm looking at is the big picture for our communities. Of course, I'm talking about the Black community because the Black community is economically deprived, the worst. Okay, so that's why I'm focusing on our community primarily, because we're not there economically. And we're not there when it comes to healthcare. So I have no problem sitting with those who have been there fighting the fight. I'm not trying to step on anyone's territory because we tend to be territorial. We tend to get, this in a hierarchy way. Well, I've been here before, and how dare you come and you? No, it's not about that. It's about fixing this issue. We got issues. We got problems. We got to fix it. And so that's what I'm here to do. So I know that we're running out of time, but again, my name is Dr. Norman Whyte. I'm running tomorrow. Please punch 291. Vote for me. If you're in North Miami Beach, Aventura, Bay Harbor Islands, Miami Shores. I look forward to this victory. Punch 291. And thank you, Mr. Pettus. Thank you, Mr. Doura and Donna, my co-host. Please, I know Donna, I know each of you have something to say, so please, in closing.
I'll make it very quick. I want everybody to I recommend everybody watch Knock Down the House, movie about the brand new Congress and how AOC and all those young ladies in the squad, how they basically infiltrated the Democratic Party. And I think we need to do more of that. Take a lesson from the Tea Party and how they took the Republican Party and made them swing way far to the right. We may not agree with them doing it, but that's what they did. They took over the party and infused themselves in and became the Tea Party. We need to do the same thing with the Democratic Party, but we need to do it with people in mind and not ourselves and for personal gain. And that's what we are lacking in our officials at this time. And if you haven't voted yet, while you're voting for Dr. Whyte, also vote for Melba Pearson, punch number 24 for state attorney. And beyond that, we got to figure out who else is next.
We'll be back, Mr. Kristopher.
Thank you so much, Dr. Whyte, Kandi. It's great hearing from you, Eric. I think this panel was solid. I'm very fortunate and very happy that I was invited. I look forward to many more collaborations. Something I have for the community. Wake up, smell the coffee. It's time to vote. Get it done. Don't sleep on it. Make a difference. We need this vote. I'm definitely excited about what's happening now, especially with how we're able to talk about some of these topics. This is really where we need encouragement. We need to be humble, approach every single day as a day that you can breathe and you can be blessed and you can say thanks. I think really that's really what's important at the end of the day, that we need to be strong and stay together. I look forward to connecting with, the audience. You can find me on Instagram, chrisdoura.planner. I have a website. I'm also on Facebook, and I think it's a great way just to connect and definitely open for more opportunities to really share how we can still connect digitally. I think this is the nuance, the new wave right now because of what's going on with COVID-19, but it shouldn't stop us. We should not take advantage of us being able to still connect digitally. So let's lift each other up. Let's keep fighting the good fight. And, we look forward to, seeing you on the other side, Dr. Whyte.
All right.
I just want to say two things. If you guys would do me a favor, I will reach out to all of you guys, but please share this on all of your pages so we can get great numbers going forward. Share on your Instagram. Everything is Talk to Dr. Whyte on Instagram, Talk to Dr. Whyte on Facebook, and Talk to Dr. Whyte on Twitter. This broadcast is actually on Twitter as via Periscope. It's also on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you guys will reshare that out, and I'll connect with you as you reshare it, because I'm also working on Dr. Whyte's page. And I just want to say, get these millennials out to vote. Don't take no for an answer. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. That's my mission, is make sure everybody votes. No excuses. And I will talk to you guys later. And thank you. And download the Life After Sports app. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All righty. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.